Hey, it's been a while, hasn't it? Why, you may ask? Well, long story short, life just kinda happened over the course of last year. Roommates, family stuff, real life job, depression. But more importantly, I've been super busy with my ongoing comic series, Dimension Ride. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Dimension Ride, or the characters that are featured in it, this is a series of chapters where basically a bunch of anthropomorphic characters go on an interdimensional adventure to save the multiverse. The project has been a lifelong dream of mine, and the team at Dragon Family Studios and I are not only working together to make it happen, but to also make it the best project it can be. If you're interested in reading the comic, the first two chapters are now available on Webtoon as well as my socials. I also post new comic pages exclusively on Patreon, so if you want to gain early access to the comic, please consider supporting my Patreon, as your support would be greatly appreciated. Not only will you gain exclusive early access to the comic, or whatever else I draw, but you will also be rewarded with a special shoutout at the end of every major video I make. With all that said, thank you kindly for your patience, and I hope you enjoy the video. Hello, my fellow dragons. It's your boy Travis here, and welcome back to a long overdue Spyro video. We have now officially reached the year 2024, and of course 2024 means Year of the Dragon, baby! Not only that, but Spyro the Dragon has now officially been around for more than 25 years. And while there hasn't officially been a Spyro game since, well, Reignited came out in 2018, fans everywhere are still demanding a brand new installment to the franchise, specifically Spyro 4. Meanwhile, some of us have also pondered and theorized about how exactly the mechanics for a new title should work. And that brings us to this video's main question. If I was suddenly hired by Toys for Bob, which honestly is very unlikely because I doubt they even know me, and if I was given the opportunity to create my very own Spyro game, what exactly would I make and how would I do it? Well, hold your horns, my fellow dragons, because I'm about to answer that question. So for this video, I will discuss the following segments in a specific order: the story, the gameplay, and finally, the presentation. And not only will I be taking inspiration from other games, but I will also be taking inspiration from animated movies too. You'll see why once we get to the presentation. Well, another great adventure awaits us, friends. So let's all head through the portal and discuss how I would make a Spyro game. The story. So, before I start this segment, I have a bit of a confession to make. I didn't actually plan out the story for the game, but I did take inspiration from other Spyro games as well as other YouTubers like Canadian Guy A. So it might not be well organized or consistent with the gameplay or the presentation itself, but this is the best I could come up with. So here's the story. The game would start off with a cutscene that is based on the epilogue of Spyro 3. Shortly after the Sorceress was defeated by Spyro himself, two familiar villains are having a meeting with each other to discuss the Spyro problem. Those two villains are none other than Nasty Nork and Ripto. Some of you may be confused as to how Ripto is still alive despite, drowning in lava at the end of the second game. And don't worry, that part will be explained. The two of them realize that they both share a common enemy, and right then and there, they both agreed to join forces against the Purple Dragon once and for all. 1 year has passed since the Year of the Dragon. Spyro is now an early teenager who has slightly grown an inch taller and now has larger wings. Now, just to clarify, I'm not saying that Spyro will look like this Spyro from Dawn of the Dragon. He's not aging that much yet. We good? We good. Despite being a teenager, however, Spyro is still having trouble learning to be mature, as well as trying to stand on his hind legs like the elders. Despite now having entered his teenage life, Spyro still feels like he's the same small dragon he always was. However, Spyro's life had already changed over the year. Hunter and Bianca went on to get married. Alora became the Queen of Avalar, while the Professor became her consultant. Moneybags hasn't been heard from since he started practicing his haiku poetry after being punished by Spyro for attempting to sell a dragon egg that he was looking for. As for his other friends that he met in the Forgotten Realms, they all decided to move on and do better things with their lives. As for Spyro himself, he now has to start being responsible because he's growing up. Not to mention, he also has to help look after the baby dragons. Life really isn't the same for him anymore without his friends that he used to know. Now the only friend he has left is Sparks, who empathizes with what Spyro is going through. But while Spyro is roaming around the Dragon Realms collecting butterflies for Sparks, he starts to feel like he's different from all the other dragons he's known his whole life. He begins questioning why they keep bringing up his destiny, even during his quest to save the elders from Nasty Nork's spell, and why they were so vague about it. He starts suspecting that they're hiding secrets from him. But then suddenly, a portal is formed out of nowhere, and it leads to a world that has never been seen before. What emerges from that portal is a small dragon that appears to be Spyro's age. Some of you may think that the dragon in question may be a fan favorite, such as Cinder for example, but some of you may also be thinking about, let's say, Ember and Flame. But because I don't really know who this dragon should be, I'll just refer to this mysterious dragon as Anonymous. Anonymous immediately recognizes Spyro, as they know him from another world. Nestor, who happens to be one of the elders, decides that it's time to tell Spyro the truth. Nestor explains that when Spyro was only an egg, there was another family of dragons, and most of them were even female. But then one day, the female dragons mysteriously vanished, and so were the rest of the eggs. The only egg that remained was Spyro's. Now, the reason I bring this up is because in the original games, not counting A Hero's Tale, A Shadow Legacy, there were only male dragons that existed, and there were no signs of any female dragons. I felt that it could help better explain why the dragon moms were nowhere to be seen in the Dragon Realms, and it would also explain why Spyro is the only young dragon compared to the elders. Well, besides the babies, of course. Anonymous then explains that the other half of the family was captured, and sent to a different realm, a realm that was so far away that it took many years to find a way back to the Dragon Realms. I do also want to clarify that this takes place after the Sorceress banished the dragons from the Forgotten Realms. But back to the story. A powerful villain was using magic to separate the dragon family by half, and now it's starting to affect the entire dragon race. But that's not all. Anonymous also mentions that the mysterious villain has also joined forces with what they described as the big ugly green guy and the short angry orange man. Spyro quickly realizes that it's Nasty Nork and Ripto, but he's confused as to why Ripto of all people is back. Anonymous tells him that there's no time to explain, and that if nothing is done soon, the whole dragon race will be lost forever. Spyro takes a moment to process everything he just heard, and decides to go with Anonymous and save the other half of the family, but not before giving one last look at the elders, as they all fear Spyro may not come back. But Nestor supports Spyro's decision, as he knows he's capable of far greater things than anyone can imagine, considering he had already saved the day 3 times. So Spyro and Sparx set off with Anonymous, and the adventure begins. Sadly, I only planned the beginning part of the story, and not everything else. Yeah, sorry, I don't really have any ideas beyond that. Honestly, I feel like this story could have been, I don't know, fleshed out a little better. If you guys have any helpful critiques or any other ideas for the story, let me know down below. But before we go any further, I did promise an explanation for Ripto's return. Now let me just say for the record that what I'm about to explain is purely just headcanon. No other official Spyro game addresses what happened to Ripto after Spyro 2. The GBA games didn't do it, and certainly not Enter the Dragonfly. So I'll try to provide the best context I can, but just take this with a heavy amount of salt. After Ripto fell right into the pool of lava, it would seem like it's all over for him. Or so everyone thought. Ripto pokes his head out of the lava to see if everyone is gone. When he realizes the coast is clear, he quickly swims through the lava, retreating from the castle he tried to take over. Ripto finds some land and crawls out of the lava, with only his clothes being singed, confirming that Ripto is a lava lizard. In other words, Ripto is basically Bowser. Look, this is the best explanation I have, okay? But now with all that out of the way, it's time to move on to the gameplay. Just like Crash Bandicoot 4, this new installment of Spyro the Dragon will have a gameplay style that plays almost exactly the same as the games we know and love. It does, however, come with a twist. As it continues right after Spyro 3, that means Sparx the Dragonfly will also keep some of his abilities. He now has the ability to carry gems that are further away from Spyro, and his health is now upgraded by 1. Since the previous title already made Sparx playable, and he already had his own attacks, that means you can now play as both Spyro and Sparx at the same time. As long as Sparx is still with you, of course. This is where one of the game's new gimmicks comes in. Just like in the Sparx levels, Spyro can randomly find butterflies that have special power-ups for Sparx that he can use against enemies. As you may have guessed, this game will also have a new feature called Tag Team, where Spyro and Sparx can now defeat enemies together. This can also allow an opportunity for a potential co-op mode, where another player can join in and play as Sparx along with Spyro. This idea was inspired by other games, like Super Mario Odyssey, and what may surprise some of you, SpongeBob's Truth or Square. I'm talking about the game, not the special it's based on. Okay, moving on. The next new selling point that I would like to add to the gameplay is customization. If you're like me, then chances are you love customizing your favorite characters in games. That's where this idea came in. Throughout the game, you will find special treasure chests that contain something special for Spyro. Cosmetics. Now you have the ability to make the purple boy look stylish by wearing, as the kids are calling it, that drip. These cosmetics come in many different forms: hats, costumes, and even skins. Some of which will be the armor that is referenced from The Legend of Spyro: Dawn of the Dragon. Some of which is also from the Dragon Generator from the now defunct Spyro's Lair website. But that's not all. These cosmetics also come in many different themes. For example, Do you have a preference for a certain iteration of Spyro? Well, now there are skins based on the Legend of Spyro and Skylanders that you can use. Feeling nostalgic? Well, now there's also a low poly skin that will satisfy your love for the old games. But what about your favorite holiday? Well, now there are festive outfits you can try on that are holiday themed. This includes Valentine's Day, Easter, Halloween, Christmas, and even Hanukkah. This game is all about inclusion, people. And speaking of inclusion, do you like to celebrate Pride Month and want to show the whole world who you are? Good news! Now there are Pride-themed skins that represent the player. This includes non-binary and trend skins. But now let's move on to our next part of the gameplay. Combat. Now, I know what you're thinking. Combat? Isn't this game a platformer? Well, yes, it is, but hear me out for a second. Back in the late 90s, Spyro was known for running around the levels, lighting up bad guys in his way, and continuing on like nothing happened. But what if there was a little more action involved? The combat is a little bit like an action RPG game, like, let's say, Kingdom Hearts and Sonic Frontiers, for example. Occasionally, you will run into an army of enemies that you will have to fight in order to either progress through the level or to reach 100% completion. Now, I'm not saying we should turn this game into full-on Legend of Spyro or anything. The moveset will still be the same as the predecessors. One new feature that will be added, though, is Spyro's air dash from Team Rumble. That will be very useful for dealing with enemies that are in the air. Once all the enemies are defeated, you will be rewarded with either a collectible, lots of gems, or even a cosmetic. Some enemies will be harder, but that's so your skills would be tested to see how much experience you have with this game. Speaking of experience, remember the glowing auras from Crash Team Rumble during the Bank Portal event that you had to collect? This is what some people call Dragon Essence. The Essence will be used as experience points, or XP, for this game. Said Dragon Essence will be collected from the enemies you defeat. Not only will the XP allow you to become stronger against foes, but you will also gain an extra life for leveling up. The highest you're allowed to level up is 50, and if you max out your XP, you will earn a skill point. With the Dragon Essence, you can use it to upgrade your already existing movesets, and even unlock new combat moves that you can combine with said moveset. Some moves are even similar to the ones from the Legend of Spyro. Much like the flight levels, or speedway levels as some people call them, there will also be side challenges that you will find throughout the main levels. This one is what I like to call the Combat Arena. This will put your skills to the test to see if you can earn more XP and extra rewards. Some enemies will be immune to your regular attacks. Some will require you to use your flame breath on them. And some armored enemies will require you to, well, literally use your head. These challenges will consist of 3 waves, and if you're going for 100% completion, you have to survive all 3 waves without dying. It sounds tough and it may seem discouraging for some, but once you get used to the combat system, it should be a breeze for you. As some of you can guess, the Combat Arena challenges are inspired by, 10 points for those who guessed correctly, the SpongeBob movie game. Yes, I am in fact a SpongeBob fan, thank you for noticing. Now let's talk about our next topic, collectibles. What's the new collectible? Is it dragonflies? Light gems? Well, prepare to be disappointed, people, because the game's main objective is rescuing dragons. Again, don't turn off the video just yet, hear me out for a second. I did say that rescuing dragons will be the main objective, but these dragons will be different. As you rescue each dragon, you'll be able to interact with them like in Spyro 1, and sometimes they'll even give you helpful combat tips. You know, instead of reusing the same "thank you for releasing me" lines over and over again. But that's not all they can do. Once you free the dragons, they will return to the hub world where they can offer you some items like experience points, health upgrades for sparks, and they'll even teach you how to use combat moves and combine them together. Some of them will even teach you some new platforming techniques. You'll already have the existing swimming, hovering, climbing, and head bash abilities, so you don't have to worry about losing those. But the new abilities will help spice up the platforming, such as wall jumping, the infamous pole spin, and even wall running. Now, before we move on to our final segment, there is one more gameplay element that I would like to add to the list. And please try to have an open mind about this, but my last gameplay idea is flight. Now, before you say anything, and trust me, I know there's going to be a certain someone who's already going to the comment section desperately begging for unlimited flight. I want to clarify that the flight in this game will not be unlimited. We're not going to make Spyro fly from point A to point B without any restrictions whatsoever. Remember, we still need to make this game a platformer. So, how can we make it work? Well, the only option I would have would be to add limited flight. That means we have to take more notes from Sonic, specifically one of its main characters, Miles Tails Prower. Tails is the best choice because thanks to his 2 tails he was born with, he is able to fly, but only for a short time. Tails cannot fly for too long or he will get tired and start to descend. So the same rules will have to apply to Spyro. As Spyro traverses around the world, he will start to take off into the air, but there will also be a stamina above Spyro that shows how long he will be allowed to fly. After the stamina completely runs out, Spyro will immediately resort to gliding, prompting the player to find a safe place to land. Not only does it add something that would actually work and still make the game a platformer, but it also makes platforming a lot more fun. Flight levels will still be implemented, but they will mostly be similar to the cyberspaces from Sonic Frontiers. Now instead of facing a time limit, there will be a rank system depending on how long you take to finish the level. Once you finish the main challenges, you will encounter a boss that you have to fly around to fight it. If you manage to get a good rank in that level, preferably an S rank, and beat the boss without taking any damage, you will receive a skill point. And don't worry, if you mess up and want to start over, there will also be a restart option. Okay, that took a while, but now it's time to finally move on to the video's final segment. The presentation. When I bring up the presentation, that means I'm showing off the game based on its visuals. I already talked about how the game will actually play, but how will the game actually look? Well, before we get to the graphics, we need to discuss some problems that Toys for Bob are having right now. For those of you who are unaware, the previous artists behind the recent games made by the studio no longer work for Activision. From what I've heard, they were apparently let go in 2021 while Crash Team Rumble was in development, and as of right now, the reason for that is still unclear. And in January of 2024, a lot of Toys for Bob employees were also laid off, and right now they currently have no art director leading the art direction for the games. So needless to say, some changes are going to happen, whether we like it or not. So, hypothetically, let's say I was hired to work for Toys for Bob as the new art director for the game. How would I make the game look? Well, the answer is this. Since Spyro is set in a fantasy world, my first move would be to make the game look like it's based on a storybook, but that alone would require a lot of research. Remember how I mentioned that I was going to take some inspiration from animated movies? Well, here are some examples. Example number 1, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. As a sequel to the first Puss in Boots movie from 2011, and another entry to the Shrek franchise, The Last Wish takes on a completely new art style. Whereas Shrek is known for having visuals that appear to be somewhat more realistic, The Last Wish takes on a more stylized approach. And not just with the character designs, but also the backgrounds and the environment as well. Seeing as how this movie is set in a fairy tale universe, the visuals are designed to look like they were hand-painted, which is something that I truly admire about this movie. There are also some action scenes where the animation is given a lower frame rate, making the movements feel like they came out of an anime, and even the effects help deliver that feeling. The animation in that movie, of course, is heavily influenced by other movies, such as Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Those two movies were not only successful financially and with audiences, but they were also a big influence for stylized animation. This includes the aforementioned Last Wish and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem. So picture this. What if a Spyro game were to have graphics that look like this? Now, I'm not saying we should make it look exactly like the movies I mentioned, but maybe something that helps fit that fantasy setting. And the choppy animation can sound a bit trippy for some people, especially when playing the game in 60 FPS, but there are actually some games that manage to make it work, like Pseudo Regalia for example. And if the Spider-Man games can also do that, so can Spyro. So if I was the art director for this game, this is how I would make it look. Conclusion. And with that, we're done. Now you know how I would make my own Spyro game. I do want to say this though. I'm not a well-experienced developer. Hell, I'm not even a professional to begin with. So I honestly don't know how the execution would turn out. Plus, I doubt Toys for Bob or any other developer would take any notes from this video and actually make these concepts a real thing. But hey, whatever happens, happens, I guess. It is what it is. With all that being said, I want to thank every single one of you for watching this video. It was actually a lot of fun coming up with ideas for a Spyro game. Heck, even writing the script was a lot of fun. If you guys enjoyed this video and want to see more, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to my channel. If you have any thoughts about my ideas, or if you have any feedback that you'd like to share, please let me know in the comments below. I'm all open for constructive criticism. And again, if you want to support my comic or any of my other works, the link to my Patreon and my other socials will be down below. Oh, and speaking of Patreon, guess what time it is? It's time for the Patreon shoutouts. Slant16 Gamer, Finality FT, Void, The Blue Rose, Julio, Freaky Person 1970, Matthew Edgel, Beetle Kieran, Rocky Savannah, CMP, Gabriel the Man, Marcus Revelis, Space Dragon 777, Eddie Santiago, Patch Jonah, Lucid Photon, Tony, Eric2801@gmail.com, Kygo035, Capart, Tabriz Sadiq, Spider Overlord, Elixir Nova, Nova Bites, Matthias Duplessis, Jules Reynolds, White Star Breaker, Nathan Flores, Zach the Artist and Gamer, Yun Mall, Starbound Axis, Ken Mazu95, Reach Estella the Brony Pirate, Stale Rice, Maverick the Hackman, ConquerFan91, Evil the Sackboy, Ethonian409, Cyberfox64, Jeff Dragon, Spyver, Okasaria, Bree, Jimmy Cato, Eon the Lilf, and last but not least, Jacob. Thank you all so much for your support. Alright guys, thanks again for watching, and as always, take care and stay safe.